I cannot believe it. I am in total shock. I cannot believe he's gone. I don't know if y'all know who David Wilcock is. But he is somebody that was part of my spiritual awakening. He was somebody that I found on another social media platform that really got me to question everything. And he's written so many books, and he's on like Ancient Aliens, and like he was on a bunch of stuff. And listen, he was very controversial. And even for me, like, I had to use my discernment, and there was a lot of things that I wasn't sure about or disagreed with. But man, that man was brave. He was so brave, and he did so much research, and he was incredibly intelligent. And they're saying that he left this world yesterday, and it was self-inflicted. And that is really shocking. And I don't even know what to think about that. Like, it makes zero sense. And of course, my heart goes out to his friends and family, but what is going on? Because he is the last person that I could see ever doing that. The very last person. Because regardless of whether you believed in what he believed in, like, he was a warrior, and he was fighting for a cause. And yes, he was eccentric and all that, but man, I cannot believe he's gone. That's crazy. And you know, listen, I don't watch very much news, but there has been so much in the news lately, and there's things that I am not going to say on this platform, but there's been very curious people in certain industries that have passed lately, and I think that he was connected to someone. I don't know. All I'm saying, I'm not going to speculate. It's very early in the investigation, but I just cannot see him doing that ever. Man, I can't believe that. You can find him on a lot of channels, and like I said, he's very eccentric, very controversial, but he was part of my awakening. And he kind of began that. It was like back in 2016, 2015. I don't know what's going on. I really don't know what's going on, but rest in peace, David. You are a brave, brave man. And I'm glad that I got to watch him, and that he helped me question things.
If you hear reports that something has happened to me, I want you to remember this video. This is Dr. Greg Rogers coming back once more. This time I want to address the 11 military personnel and scientists that have gone missing or dead over the recent time. A particular concern to me is the fact that General McCaslin, who disappeared just outside of Albuquerque, disappeared just a half mile from where my good friend Linda Moulton Howe lives. I know that she's very disturbed about it, as am I. The sudden rapid and recurring disappearances and deaths are very unusual, especially considering the quality of the personnel who went missing and disappeared or were found dead. I've dealt with high-level personnel my entire career, and these are not people who would routinely do things of this sort, and yet they would be involved with operations and research projects that would put them in knowledge of very important things. Of concern to me is the fact that since I have come out with the revelation that I saw a reverse engineered UFO, I have been harassed And it is of concern to me that I do not become the 12th person on that list. So I want to go on record as saying that I have this concern. I am not going to walk off into the woods. I'm not going to kill myself or do anything of that sort.
Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary, I got to say. Anyway, it's a very exciting time to be alive, man. It's a very exciting time to be here on Earth. Once we get disclosure, we learn that we're not alone. We learn that there is a cosmic benefit to being here on Earth. Every day that I have on Earth is a gift and a blessing, and I'm very grateful for that because, frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary, I got to say. Anyway, it's a very exciting time to be alive, man. It's a very exciting time to be here on Earth. Once we get disclosure, we learn that we're not alone. We learn that there is a cosmic benefit to being here on Earth. Frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary, I got to say. It's a little bit scary, but you guys knew that I might still show up even though it was last minute and I've had a really rough week. Like, you know, that's kind of like every week, but somehow we keep on making it through all of this. I really wish there were other influencers out there doing global meditations, but right now it seems like I'm the only one. And so we gotta keep on track, you guys. I need other people out there doing this for me because I don't want to be a single point failure. If anything ever happened to me, God forbid, you know, we don't want that to happen, but I want other people to be doing this as well, not just me. Frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary, I got to say.
What's up, TikTok? I'm just sitting here at work on my lunch break. But I was watching some videos on YouTube, and they were about David Wilcock, the UFO researcher, and supposedly the reincarnation of Edgar Casey, which is pretty interesting story and could be believable. But David supposedly killed himself on 4/20 of this year in Colorado. But what, you know, I watched about 30 or 40 videos about his death and stuff, and it's like they all talk about the 911 calls and whatever, but none of them seem to be able to play the 911 call. And every single one of them all fail to acknowledge the fact that on his weekly show he would do, he did mention numerous times that if he ends up dying, or if he ends up unalived, whatever, that it was not suicide. And they all say that it was suicide, that he pewed himself, and I think it's complete bullshit. And it's really sad because that would be 12 UFO researchers. And David, whether you like him or not, you know, he did sound kind of nuts. If you're not into that stuff, if you're not into conspiracies and stuff like that, and you first start listening to him, he's going to sound like he's nuts, and you're going to write him off as crazy. But a lot of stuff that he talked about was corroborated by other people, by whistleblowers and just other researchers and stuff like that. And I think that he was genuinely a person who was trying to give the public more truth than the powers that be want to have out there. And I learned a lot from him. He wrote the Book of One, or the Law of One, I mean, and you got some really interesting stuff that you can't really argue with. And it's kind of interesting how he went from being anti-Christian, I guess, not necessarily anti-Christian, but at least to his own beliefs, back to believing a lot of stuff about Jesus and about, you know, religion and the Bible and stuff. And it's kind of fascinating how the Law of One, you know, it goes along with a lot of Jesus teachings, I guess, at least in some ways. And it's, you know, I don't know why people don't talk about how he said specifically, if I come up not alive, it was not suicide. He did not kill himself. I don't believe David shot himself at all. And it's crazy how the mainstream media says, well, it's crazy how TMZ was the ones reporting on one of the last video I watched. They knew all this stuff. Why would TMZ be looking at a UFO researcher who's not a big public figure? I thought they were dealing with like people in Hollywood and stuff like that, and David seemed to be totally anti-Hollywood, and just somebody who actually had a lot of inside information that ended up being true. A lot of his predictions came true, and some of the stuff that he talked about hadn't came true yet and may not, but it was all leading down the right road in a way, or down the road of truth. And especially if you're not into the stuff he talks about, absolutely I'm going to sound like I'm just supporting a nutcase, but he wasn't as nutty as you might think. And once you go down that rabbit hole a little bit, you'll find out that a lot of stuff that he was onto a lot of truths, and he was trying to spread positivity about extraterrestrials, and trying to put a positive light on what they're here doing for the most part, even though there are good and bad ones. And that in itself sounds kind of nuts, that that I'm so sure of there being ETs, but I am 100% sure that there's ETs out there. And it's David was the first one who did talk about or bring forward people who spoke about a lot of crazy things, and about the secret space program and stuff like that. And he definitely had people that were real insiders that actually had true information. And I don't know, I just think it's really sad that he is not with us anymore, and that they're taking out all these people that are have anything to do with UFOs and anti-gravity and all this stuff. And you know what, when someone gets killed like that just tells you that a lot of the stuff that they're saying is true, and they don't want that information out there, because they have people out there to misinform us all the time. People are talking nonsense and saying this, that, and the other thing about that area of information. And it just confirms to me that he actually was on the right track in a lot of ways, because they wouldn't have taken him out if he wasn't. And it's really sad that he's not with us anymore. And it's really screwed up that they are trying so hard to keep anti-gravity out of the public knowledge, I guess, or just trying to keep us away from these technologies that would actually help the world so much. And I don't know about the company David was working with or not. I don't know. They were talking about building these spaceships and all this stuff, and who knows if that was the only thing that he spoke about that was kind of really iffy to me about being true or not, I guess. So, a lot of you are probably thinking, well, if he's making up something about that, then maybe everything's being made up. But I don't know. I just don't think that he would. I think he wasn't suicidal one bit. And even though there was lots of people attacking him all the time, and trolls on there trying to talk shit about him all the time, I think it's really just messed up. And nobody's death should be celebrated. And I know there's people that are out there that are laughing about it and think it's funny or whatever, but middle finger to those people, because I don't like to celebrate anybody's death. And I don't know, but anyways, I just wanted to say that about it. And but wish y'all a wonderful day. And if you do look into the stuff he talks about, you'll find it pretty interesting. But don't let that be the first thing you look into if you're looking into UFOs and conspiracies and stuff like that about UFOs, because he's going to sound totally out there and wacky if you start listening to him first. But anyways, I say love for peace, peace for love. Y'all have a great, blessed day. All right, peace.
David Wilcock. So there is sad news that he has passed recently. We want to ask, because there is talk that maybe he hasn't, so we want to just clarify whether he has or not.
Mm-hmm. Let's just ask the question, has he actually passed away?
No.
So, if he's not passed away, why are we being told he has? David made vision. Is that right? So if he hasn't passed away, then why have they said he has? David made vision. Are you saying that like the information that David used to share was opening people's eyes to things? Art 5. Art 5?
Art 5?
Art. Talking about Artemis.
Is it Artemis 5?
No, it's Artemis 2.
Not your question.
Do you mean there's a different question we should be asking instead of why are we being told he's passed away? Okay. How about then?
Has he faked his own death? Have the authorities faked his death?
Okay, they have.
I'm presuming obviously David must be in on this.
So, it basically, is he in like protective custody? No. Is it, okay, so we've been told he's passed, he's not passed. Faked his death. What led up to that needing to happen?
It's still going to Artemis 5.
There's something to do with Artemis 5 and David Wilcock. Now, David Wilcock he's a paranormal writer, a UFO specialist. So he would have great interest in all of that.
I don't know what he's
Following a self-inflicted wound.
He was on doing lives and that on YouTube, I think, like a day or 2 days before.
And Artemis 5 is due to be scheduled for late 2028. Okay, fine. You keep bringing up Artemis 5. Let's talk about this. What about Artemis 5? I don't even know it was a thing.
When we asked, it said come back. We'll dig into that in a second, but I just want to clarify something. When we asked about his death being covered up and if the authorities had done this, we weren't specific on who.
Well, no, that is the problem. We need to be very specific.
So,
was it NASA? As in NASA covered, like, pretending he's not alive? No.
Who? What authority helped disguise this? Trump.
I wasn't going to say it, but yeah.
Why were you going to say it?
I don't know. Just didn't feel like I should. So,
For good, I'm trying to get, like...
the American government, I mean. As in, do you mean the American government?
No.
Specifically...
I think it did mean the American government.
Specifically, Tangerine Man. We need to be really careful on the words we're using right now.
Okay. Because I'm not a Trump supporter.
Tangerine Man supporter.
But... I don't have feeling either way.
He's just a Tangerine Man to me. I don't... There's a big debate, isn't there? There's a load of people in his corner, there's a load of people not.
I don't want to be part of that, and I don't want our channel being dragged into that either.
No, so I've got no feelings on him either way. It's
just
government.
This is what's coming through. So it's him alone, not with government. Obviously,
well, it's not him alone.
But a section of some kind of secret kind of act sort of thing.
Is this to do with Area 51? It has got something to do with that.
And it's got something to do with Artemis 5, which is...
You mean Artemis 5, the moon landing Artemis 5? The NASA that's scheduled for 2028? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Was David complicit in this faking of death? He was.
He was.
See, that's
for
what's
a bigger plan. going forward in 2028 involving Artemis 5? Just so that everybody knows we're clear on what we're getting.
Right, okay, so has he done it maybe for his own safety?
No, it's a project they're working on.
And it's to do with Artemis 5 and the moon?
Because it said, and I don't know if we remember, because we came off it, when we asked why Artemis 5, it said, come back.
It did say come back. So are you trying to say that in 2028, when Artemis 5, whatever that is David Wilcock going to reappear? Won't that be a fucking...
We're not going to get to the bottom of what it's all about.
I don't know, can you tell us anything?
So the story goes that in the 1960s there was a black man in Africa who came in with abilities complementary to those of Jesus. And he was performing miracles. He was starting to get people to listen to what he had to say. And the cabal tried to kill him, and, you know, they could shoot him in the head and his skull would just regenerate and the flesh would grow back, and he was fine. And, you know, so the crazy story that I heard, which, and remember, I was told at the time that if I disclosed this, that I would be killed. And I ended up putting it in the book anyway. The story was that this guy, you know, they finally said, okay, we're going to bring you to the United Nations and share your message with the world. Let's get you on this flight. They bring him on this flight, and instead of bringing him to the United Nations, they shot him repeatedly, and then actually had some kind of meat grinder device, and basically like a bandsaw, I guess, and sawed up his body into a whole bunch of pieces, put him in these very like radioactive shielded containers, and then had all these fighter jets dock with the plane and fly his body parts to all corners of the world, where then these containers turned them into ash. And they thought that maybe this would defeat him, like that his body somehow, the tissue was necessary. So if they destroyed all the tissue in all these places across the world, maybe they could defeat him. Well, he then regenerated in their offices and was fully fine, fully intact. But the sad part is that he said, you know, you guys so badly do not want me to be here that I am not going to be able to do any more. You're going to get what you want, but bear in mind that in the future, many others like me will be coming, and when they do, you will not be able to stop us.
Well, that's a story you don't hear in school. We are not from here. Everything they painted white throughout our history was really black. This is the only other person I heard say that. And I've been saying this since I was a kid.
What is David Wilcock's cause of death?
I shot rock station.
I don't know if you heard that. That was freaking clear. It literally said, like, I shot. David, why did you shoot?
I'm curious.
I'm curious.
And get
Does this have something to do with the alien research, like those missing scientists?
You think you know?
Taken out. By who? Guards here?
It is now being reported that another UFO researcher, David Wilcock, has passed away on April 20th, 2026 at age 53. This now makes it number 12 of the researchers and scientists who have passed away or gone missing. David Wilcock was also a New York Times best-selling author, always on the show Ancient Aliens. He also stated many times that he loved his life and planned on living. And the day before he unalived, he said this on his podcast.
Every day that I have on earth is a gift and a blessing, and I'm very grateful for that because, frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary. I got to say, it's a little bit scary, but you guys knew that I might still show up even though it was last minute and I've had a really rough week. Like, you know, that's kind of like every week, but somehow we keep on making it through all of this.
And it gets even more weird because Nick Pope, who was also on Ancient Aliens, passed away 2 weeks before David Wilcock. Also, David Wilcock's biographer, Win Free, passed 2 days before David Wilcock on April 18th. All of these researchers and scientists who are ending up not alive anymore or missing just isn't adding up. Call it a coincidence if you want, but now it's 12 in a row.
He also believed the universe was alive, powered by a fundamentally good force, but always at war against evil. Some very philosophical stuff, but interesting. Let's take a listen.
Ultimately, the universe is intelligent, alive, and conscious, and it is benevolent. It is a benevolent consciousness. That consciousness does not allow the negative to succeed unless it is invited. So the cabal has made a science, a very elaborate science, out of studying these arcane, occult, magical principles. Honest to God. This is true, folks. You need to stop this shit. Some things I don't mind talking about. I don't like talking about this. What the hell are you doing, dude? You're going to lose. You're not going to win. It's inevitable. We already know because the future timeline is fixed. This particular timeline that we're on leads to your defeat. There is no getting around that. You are not being in integrity, but you don't care. But if you don't do this, we are screwed, man. You think this is all natural? You think nobody's coordinating any of this stuff? You think I want to talk about this? You think I want to be up here on this fucking camera talking about this shit? Once we get disclosure, we learn that we're not alone. We learn that there is a cosmic benefit to being here on Earth. Cosmic benefit to the universe. We got 2,500 people watching live. Thank you all for showing up. So we definitely are at that global meditation number. We are doing a meditation right now. We're working together, bringing about this higher consciousness disclosure. It's going to help us dramatically with our spiritual.
So David Wilcock has passed today, and if you follow conspiracy and alien circles, you should know who this is. He was on all kinds of documentaries. He had a YouTube channel where he talked about aliens and all kinds of crazy stuff. He was a regular guest on Ancient Aliens on the History Channel. I first heard of him because of the documentary Above Majestic that talked about Antarctica and lizard people and just everything. And he passed from that thing that we can't really talk about on here anymore because your video is going to get flagged, which seems kind of weird. But at a time when all these scientists are coming up missing, this happened. Because he was the director of advanced technology for Civita Aerospace, and that started around 2023. You know, I'm not undermining what happened to him. Depression is a real thing, and this always sucks to hear about something like this. But I can say I'm not the only one that's sitting around thinking about this death and everyone that's also missing in the same field. It just kind of seems weird that the dialogue of disclosure is starting to come up, and he talked about disclosure a lot. And before anybody tries to correct me on any of this, a death probe was open in Boulder County in Colorado. That's where the news is circulating about his death, even though no confirmation has came from his family.
Are we really supposed to sit here and believe this nigga just offed himself?
They're as serious as a heart attack. And if it wasn't for these universal laws, they would have taken me out.
I think they would have.
They've tried and tried and tried. I have been given death threats directly from the Rothschilds 3 different times. They have actually had somebody that they could talk to.
Straw parties.
It's from them, through this person, to me, 3 times. Direct death threats from the Rothschilds. Shut up or we're going to take you out. And I'm still doing it.
You're still doing it.
Because what they really try to do is they try to lure you in with a honey trap that gets you to authorize your own death. That's how it works.
But you need to be careful, and let me tell you why. We are being plagued with naturopathic doctors being murdered. That's happening all around the country, all around the planet these days. We have had biochemists killed. Stephen Quayle and I have talked about that for years. They're getting to these people who are those